So the billionaires are still running the show, and we're going to show you today how that happens. When it comes to climate policy in Australia, energy and climate policy, the billionaires and the fossil fuel corporations are still calling the shots. By that we mean Gina, Kerry, Rupert, the Indian guy, Gautam Adani, the Indian billionaire, and even little Clivey Palmer. Are hard on the heels of the colourful Gina Rinehart and Rupert Murdoch Bush Summit, produced by Gina and Rupert Murdoch's Sky News. They were running around the regions telling anybody who might listen that renewable energy would devastate farmers. The coal was good where the wind don't blow and when the sun don't shine. We've heard it for 20 years now.
Net zero, the net zero because of net zero by net zero. Net zero, the net zero, intermittent, unreliable, high-cost electricity.
And so it was that there was another gift by the Queensland Government for the fossil fuel lobby. Bit of a scoop here. On Monday, the Queensland Government scrapped the gigantic forest wind farm project in Queensland. That was hard on the heels of another $1 billion wind farm project, which was canned in May. Now this time, the Queensland Government actually repealed a law to scrap this renewable energy project, this wind project. They changed the laws of the state, even though the project was on plantation land. And this, on top, want to hear about another Queensland Government favour for the fossil fuel sector? This was on top of Bravos, which is the old Adani Mining. Change of name. The Queensland Government gave Bravos a 7-year royalties holiday so they don't have to pay for the coal that they're digging out of the ground. The government dressed this up as a quid pro quo, not as a gift. They said that in order to get the royalties holiday, the 7-year royalties holiday, they would be allowed, the Indians would be allowed to expand their coal operations at Carmichael, which is the giant coal project. Now, what sort of a deal is that? When the government says to reps for an Indian billionaire, we'll give you extra coal approvals in return for a 7-year royalties holiday. Because we love you, you tax-avoiding, climate-destroying foreign billionaire people, even though you deliver almost nil benefit for Australia, apart from a few jobs. These are highly mechanised projects. Yet the most ominous news, and here's the scoop, that we're hearing from the Queensland investment sector, that's the fund managers, and this is speculative. It's not been announced, but it certainly would be true to form given the backsliding of the Queensland Government, is that the government of David Crisafulli is moving to open up the Galilee Basin, the rich coal province, central Queensland, which is a giant carbon bomb. They're going to open that up for development, we're hearing. This is speculative. It hasn't happened yet. But who stands to benefit? Gina, of course, Gina Rinehart, she's got 2 very large projects in the Galilee, and Clivey Palmer with his one project. So what have we got here? The climate wars. Just like the culture wars, they simply refuse to die. Despite the science, despite the compelling case for renewable energy, which is happening and which will lead to far lower energy prices. And why is that? How can so few people have so much influence? Simply money, lobbying power, the suborning of politicians. Yes, it's official bribery. That's how so few voices with so much money can have so much power. And when it comes to climate policy, it is still therefore the fossil fuel corporations and the billionaires running the show, despite the change of federal government. And Queensland is proving the most craven, destructive and short-sighted state of all. Let's break down the web of influence. If you had the misfortune to be privy to the recent Bush Summit, the Sky News Bush Summit, that's News Corp and Gina's production, it was all about how farmers would be devastated by net zero. And while the coalition is tearing itself apart with Barnaby and Matt Canavan and these guys calling to end net zero, the answer is clear for Australia to move ahead. Actually ramp up, accelerate the rollout of wind and solar and batteries. None of this coal is good, gas is good.
And it falls onto the farm for the decommissioning and rehabilitation, which they will not have the money for.
Bald-faced lie.
Quick house ad. If you like what we're doing here, please consider making a monthly donation to Patreon. We're entirely funded, apart from a few small YouTube ads, by the community, by readers. And that's the way that we want to keep it. It's not so that you can read it or you can watch it, but it's so everyone can watch it and everyone can read it. Please consider tipping us a few dollars on Patreon. You'll find the link in the description. And thanks for those who already support us. It's a shock to hear from our sources at Michael West Media that the Galilee is back. That is, that the coal projects in Queensland's central Galilee Basin are again on the table for approval. We'll come to you when that actually happens, but in the meantime, it's slightly speculative. That would mean billions more in cash for Gina. So we've got a WA billionaire, Gina Reinhart, financing this Bush summit, a US billionaire, Rupert Murdoch, providing the free advertising. And in case you missed it, the Bush summit was the one where Albo was heckled last week. One heckler approached Victorian Premier Jacinta Allan with a noose, and Bridget McKenzie was riding a tractor, stopping Allan from leaving the event. Among the anti-climate rabble was Advance Australia, the right-wing nutjob group funded by fossil fuel interests. The nutjobs video was featured in the Bush summit. So there they are, the billionaires, Gina, Gautam Adani, and there's more to boot. The former Labor government initially signed a royalty deferral deal with Bravos or Adani Mining in 2020, and now we have this latest gimme and the Forest Wind Farm debark. Even though Adani, when it was trying to get its project up, it promised $22 billion in tax and royalties. $22 billion. Not one red cent has been seen. And it doesn't have a snowflake's chance of ever happening. Yeah, they promise all this stuff, but when they're trying to get the project up, and they get their little independent experts to sign off on these claims, the $22 billion claim. And the politicians believe them because, of course, their political parties are getting money from the corporations and the billionaires. In the Northern Territory, it's an American billionaire, the guy behind the mob fracking up the Beetaloo Basin. Tamboran Resources is the name of that company, listed on the ASX. In Victoria, it's Ryan Stokes, the son of billionaire Kerry Stokes, whose Beach Energy has been given the green light to drill the Otway Basin. And that's just a few kilometres offshore from the 12 Apostles. There you have it. Rupert, Gina, Gautam, Stokes and Clivey Palmer. So few people with so much power to swing politicians. This is despite the fact that the International Energy Agency, the IEA, which used to be funded by coal, has said we don't want any, if we're going to move to net zero globally, we don't want any new fossil fuel projects. Over in the West, of course, the federal government has just given Woodside the green light for the Northwest Shelf expansion. That is a humongous project. Billions in free gas, no royalties, to be drilled for 50 years for the benefit of mostly foreign shareholders. So where are we on the climate and political front when it comes to energy projects? When it comes to energy generators like AGL and Origin and the other couple of energy generators in that little cartel, they're dragging the chain on renewable energy rollouts by trying to say all the right things. They're just not coming to the party quickly enough. Yet at the retail and industrial level, we're going gangbusters when it comes to rooftop solar and new energy investment in batteries. The money behind batteries is immense. It's just pouring in. But upstream at the project level, now if you check out this chart, check out the story on Michael West Media by Zach Schumer. The latest addition to this chart was the Northwest Shelf project, but it's accelerating now. Now, okay, if you look at the chart, under ScoMo, it was enormous, and then it dropped right off, but it is accelerating again. We're only halfway through 2025. This chart reflects the approvals by the Environment Minister. While the IEA has said there should be no new fossil fuel projects, the Environment Minister is actually ticking off on these things. Now, if you were to measure it by emissions, given the Northwest Shelf project, we're talking about serious numbers here. This chart probably undercooks it. And the other thing to say is that Scope 3 emissions, most people don't take into account here because that's somebody's problem overseas because they're buying our gas. So we don't count it in our emissions accounting. Meanwhile, Chris Bowen is lobbying to chair the COP31 global climate summit with a record like this. We're having to do some fast talking, old Chrissy Bowen, really, because the more successful portfolio is Madeleine King, who goes into bat for the resources companies. It's an inglorious effort on the climate front, although Bowen is trying to do a good job, and they're better than the last mob, than Skomokio and co. The problem, of course, is there's a mountain of money in fossil fuels. They're locking it in before the curtains come down. And meanwhile, we've got a corporate media which is completely captured. One of them, News Corp, brazenly propagandising daily for fossil fuels, and the other one just limp. And of course, the TV people, they just take their cue from what's in the newspapers every morning. This propaganda. So billionaires are the ones reaping massive financial benefits from all that. And meanwhile, we've got the climate war still going after 20 years. 20 years where politics in Australia has been emaciated and still going now, the coalition tearing itself apart. Andrew Hastie this morning, the guy, the next leadership pretender for the coalition, for the Libs, refusing to say whether he'd back Barnaby and co or back the net zero crew in the coalition. They have gone nowhere in 20 years, despite the world moving on, moving right past them. No wonder they're doing hopelessly in the polls. And still, we've got CCS, carbon capture and storage, being taken seriously by politicians, despite the fact that after 20 years, it clearly does not work. Yet the sheer amount of money in fossil fuels will see that this clamour continues. The old, when the wind don't blow and the sun don't shine. It's the ultimate false narrative. So don't hold your breath for the propaganda to stop. It's going to keep going. I mean, have a look at this Daily Telegraph scoop, which failed, this front page, just there to bag Labor again, to slow the transition. They failed to say in their scoop that a falling electricity price is good for everybody. Yes, there is a subsidy for gas giants if the price of electricity falls. Yes, there is. But the actual point of this story should be, and this has been willfully ignored by the Murdoch headline writers, that if there's a fall in the electricity prices, everybody wins. Every household, every business that uses gas, and the entire economy. And that will happen as renewable energy takes hold. Prices will fall, and when they fall, everybody will win. It's happening, despite this gross denialism of the Bush summit and so on, and the hand-wringing about what are the solutions. The solutions are just staring us in the face. Ramp up the rollout at every level, local, state and federal. Make it happen. Get rid of coal. Get rid of gas. Because the only winners really are billionaires, are mostly foreign tax-avoiding corporations. Now, we've done this 100 times. We've gone into their accounts. Energy Australia, the gas crew, Exxon, Chevron, Shell. And guess what? They didn't pay tax for a decade. They're starting to a bit now. We've done all that. This story is very old now. It's more than 10 years old. We were the first ones to break it. And of course, they don't pay much, very little in the way of royalties either. And that is the amount they should be paying to us because we own it to buy our minerals before they profiteer by selling them offshore. Please like, share and comment in the section below. It's too slow. We've got to ramp this stuff up. There needs to be more public pressure on the government to stop new fossil fuel projects. We don't need them. And to transition to renewable energy, which will be far cheaper and cleaner as soon as possible.